Matt, despite it being a longer pre-season, having not had to focus on any delays or playoffs, it still feels like that end of the season against Port Vale was yesterday in some respect. It does come around pretty quickly, doesn't it?
It always does. You plan your holidays, you plan your break, and then you're in the middle of it, and all of a sudden you got half an eye on what's coming around the corner, and that's a pretty swift pre-season. Obviously, we had the trip away quite early within that pre-season as well, and able to get another good 3 or 4 weeks training under the belt, with some games to boot. So physically, the group aren't in a bad position. Bar Kyle Taylor, who's got the long-term injury, they're not in a bad state of affairs. And we go into this weekend with a bit of freshness that it's the first competitive game, and one we worked so hard to be able to play in. We spent so much time in League Two that now we need to enjoy what we can encounter in League One.
Let's get straight into the opponent then, Lincoln City. What are you expecting from them? Obviously, they've got a new manager, so things perhaps have changed a little from previous footage you may have seen.
Yeah, we tried to pick up bits and pieces from pre-season. As time went on in the last few seasons, we knew we couldn't go into the full detail we wanted in terms of opposition teams, certainly at the start of the season, because no disrespect to their pre-season program, like ourselves, sometimes the opposition isn't always relevant. But we tried to pick up bits and pieces and feed that into the players where necessary, and then really concentrate on our own principles of play. We don't expect too much will have changed from last season. We kept the majority of the group, haven't added too many bodies in relation to that. So I still hope we look like we did last season and look like we did at our best last season. And we'll need to be to have any chance of winning the game or getting any points this weekend, because Lincoln are a good team with good players. They move the ball fantastically well. They look quite aggressive in terms of the way they want to go about their work, getting after the ball, but also getting on the ball and moving the ball. And we've got to have our wits about us this weekend. We hope it will be a well-supported game for both teams. First league game of the season for Lincoln under a new manager, like you touched upon, under a slightly fresher squad. The anticipation will be there for Lincoln fans and everyone involved with Lincoln. But there's got to be an air of expectation and excitement with everyone associated with Exeter City.
In the respect of looking at pre-season opponents and perhaps their relevance, does that perhaps make the opening game of the season probably the hardest one to prepare for, because you're not really sure what to look at?
Possibly, but also the ins and outs in terms of still in a transfer window. There might be bodies signed today, tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. You never quite know what will change in terms of team sheets and personnel within it, and also their profiles. And sometimes different profiles can change the way a team sets up. So there's lots of detail to go into, but it's what detail gets fed into the players, and they've got to go in there with a free mind, a clear mind, and understanding of what they look like when they're performing well. They've got enough experience from last season, and not too much has changed. So obviously we know what we're intending to do and hoping to do. The opposition will have a big part to play in relation to that, but it'll be a good atmosphere, be a good pitch, and we hope it's a good game of football.
Having been up at the training ground this week, we've seen there's a bit of excitement among the players as they look for that first league game. What's your message to the players ahead of this one, in terms of there's not really any pressure on them as to what happens?
Oh, there's internal pressure. There's pressure players put themselves under. They've worked so hard to play at this level. They want to perform at this level, and they want to feel comfortable at this level. They want to produce displays which say they're there for the long haul, and can really compete over a 46-game season at a League One level of English football. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play. This Saturday will not define us in any means. We've got another 45 games after that, where what we've done recruitment-wise so far suggests we should get stronger, even in this window, if not the next window. The young players will keep improving once they gain the experience they've learned from and had over pre-season, over last season, over the start of this coming season. So lots to look forward to in relation to that. I don't want too much pressure on the players. There shouldn't be any pressure on the players. They've got to go in with a less weight on their shoulders than maybe the expectation that we had in League Two, where we should have been competing towards the top end of the table on a more regular basis.
You mentioned on a call with the BBC just then about that step up in level, and you remember it when it happened with you at Exeter City and your experiences of that. Is that something that you've discussed with the players about managing their expectations and what they hope to achieve?
No, it's, they're different individuals to myself, different individuals to my staff. It's a different generation. Like I said, some of them got a little bit of League One experience, so some of them will feel they should be playing League One, if not higher. Now is the opportunity to go and show it. Everyone within that group will get a fantastic opportunity this season. if they're not starting the game on Saturday, they'll get game time at some stage soon. And they have to try and find a way to stay together, stay focused on task. It was almost an easier thing to do last season because we all know what we were working towards as that second half of the season went on. The aim was clear. What we were trying to do week in, week out was really clear. And everyone was hell bent in relation to that. And we just got to refocus ourselves going into this weekend and pick up those traits and those characteristics we had last season. But as I've always said, some will surprise us, some will struggle. Naturally, a step up might be too much for some within the group, and we'll support them through that. But then there will also be some who find their feet in a certain different level of football. But different people have come back in different shapes and sizes and fitness levels this pre-season. All we can do is just give them our trust and our confidence. There's nothing to fear in terms of failure this season, but all to game in terms of success.
Looking at squad availability then, I think it was a wait and see moment on Jamal Blackman, whether he'd be fit or not. And those question marks on Giovanni Brown and Josh Key and Harry Kite that you mentioned last week at Torquay. Yeah,
those three, in terms of the latter, have done a bit of training this week. We'll assess them tomorrow and Saturday morning and make a late decision with them. Jamal, we knew about the existing ankle injury. He's looked great in training in terms of the way he's moving and so on and so forth. Kicking's still a problem for him. So this weekend might come too soon. Depends how he is. Friday, Saturday. He'll still travel with the squad so we can make a late decision. If not, obviously we've got Scott and Harry Lee to help deputise that position. One thing I'm conscious of is signing a player and then putting him at risk. We never want to do that because it's a longer term investment over the course of the season. So we'll assess that on a daily basis and see how he reacts to the work he's done today, tomorrow, and then when he works tomorrow, see how he reacts to that Saturday morning.
I guess I think you touched on this as well with Jamal. If he has to miss one or two, it's worth it if he can play 44.
Yeah, but he's not done any training up until he's joined us. He's done a little bit of testing at Huddersfield, but no real goalkeeper training, and even in small-sided games and an 11v11 practice. So he's not had the pre-season that most of our group has had, and he's a big profile. He needs to get his feet moving and get his body moving in relation to that goalkeeping position. But even in the short time he's been with us, we've liked his demeanour. He's been impressive the way he's kept the ball out of the net. You've seen him; he's a big old profile. I wouldn't want to be a centre forward or an attacking player looking down the barrel of him when trying to score, because there's not much space left in that goal because he fills it so well. But we don't want to put him at harm's way this weekend. And that'll be his decision and Scotty's decision and a physio's decision. As a manager, you always want your best players and your strongest squad available at all times, but not putting anyone at risk.
And finally, then, we've brought in 2 bodies in the transfer window. There's still a month left. We, of course, know you want to improve and add to the squad where you can. Are you looking short term, as in ahead of perhaps the Port Vale game, or are you willing to do whatever you need up until the end of the window?
Twofold. We're still waiting on parent clubs. We spoke about the loan market that we're in. There's not as many free agents out there right now because season starts on Saturday, so most of them have signed up at places. So we're waiting at loan clubs, parent clubs. We have to be respectful in terms of them, and they'll only make these players available and ready to come to us when they feel that's necessary for themselves. So we understand that, we respect it. It's not ideal because we'd like a couple more bodies in ready for this weekend, let alone next weekend. All I can say is that that's what we're working towards, and we hope to be successful in the coming days and coming weeks in relation to bringing more players to the football club.